Hey, folks, thanks for being here. Hope everybody had a great week since the last time we got together. And if it's the first time you're joining us, welcome. Glad you could be here. Always happy to have new members of the family join us. And if you listen to my shows in the past, I usually talk about the nervous system, the digestive system. We talk about diet. But I want to cover something that kind of came up in my life recently, and it could have been a real big issue. And is your home making you sick? What happened to me was I had a roof leak on my porch, and it was leaking a little bit, and it's an enclosed porch, and I had a roofer come out, checked it one time, checked 2 times, 3 times, and then he just stopped calling me back. And I said, but you did the repair work on the roof. Why are you not calling me back? So basically just gave up on me, just jumped ship. So I called in a major roof company in, and they did a great job, and I was very happy. But what was happening was as the water got in, mold can start to develop. And I've had this happen before with other patients where they just weren't getting well. We give them great chiropractic care. We get them on a diet. We straighten out their digestive system, put them on supplements. And we just can't figure out why they're not getting well. So we're kind of going to go into like a postgraduate work here for you when it comes to health. You have your undergraduate work is just you getting your diet straightened out. Graduate work is getting your nervous system worked out. And now we're going to get into postgraduate work. What else could be going on? And I've had people already with perfume. They've had issues. I had one lady just last week. She came in and she just wasn't getting well. And one of my other doctors was seeing her. And he had heard of the show I did on electromagnetic frequencies. So she had one of those wristbands that monitor your health. And he had her app, turned the app on, pushed on her muscles, and every muscle in her body went weak. Shut the app off, muscles got strong. Turned it back on, got weak. He says it was so freaky to watch. So there's a lot of different things that come into play, especially in today's society. We didn't have these things 20, 30, 40 years ago, and now we do. So we've got to start thinking what else is going on that might be making me sick. Now, there's lots of household items that have potential of causing irritants and health problems, and it can cause physiological issues. So there's chemicals, there's electricity, and we're going to go line item by line item on some of the things I really want you to check into. Because if your body is healthy, the healthier you are, the less likely you are to be affected by these potential contaminants or toxins. But depending on your age, depending on previous illnesses, the state of your immune system, it can become an issue. So this is another reason why you really need to look at getting well and staying well. I can't avoid the fact that I'm here at the studio. And in the studio, we have these major dishes outside the studio picking up TV waves, radio waves. There's electromagnetic frequencies around me. There's Wi-Fi. I mean, who's anywhere without Wi-Fi anymore? These are all things that I can't avoid. I can't avoid driving in traffic and inhaling toxins. But if I keep my immune system as strong as it possibly can be, well, the chances are it's not going to affect me as much. When you're weak and then you get one more, straw that broke the camel's back, one more thing attacking you, that's when people get sick. So that's why I want to put together a whole wellness plan for you, not just chiropractic, not just nutrition, not just electromagnetic frequencies. You got to cover it all. And that's the key. So let's start with your sofa. Your couch is killing you, and that's something I reported on a couple of weeks ago, where sitting now has become the new smoking. Your body has to stay in motion in order for the body to stay healthy. And how many people sit all day? Raise your hands. A lot of you, right? Truck drivers, office workers. We don't get up and move like a generation ago did. Now, luckily in my career as a chiropractor, I move from room to room and I adjust patients. When I do my shows, I'm standing. Right now, I'm standing. So I have the opportunity to keep my body in motion. You might not. So if you sit on your couch, you're exhausted all day from working. You sit on your couch, there's chemicals in your couch that can be causing problems. A study on fire retardant showed that all 22 mothers and 26 children that were part of this test were exposed to a fire retardant called TDCIPP. It's a likely carcinogen, and that's according to the Environmental Working Group. The average concentration in children was nearly 5 times that of their mothers. People end up with fire retardants in their bodies. They either inhale it, they swallow dust particles. So it sounded like a good idea several years ago when we started making fire retardant cribs and fire retardant couches. And it said, oh, that's a great idea. But nobody seemed to look at the fact that the fire retardant itself might be an issue. And now it's turning out that it is. So what do we do about that? Well, a couple of things. I wouldn't recommend getting the sprays that you put on your furniture for stains, the stain proofing things, because those are toxic. And when you're sitting on your couch, chances are some of your bare skin is touching it, your arms, your legs, your face. These chemicals can be absorbed into the body. Once again, if the body's healthy and this is your biggest sin, probably not the worst thing to happen to you. But overall, we're all under stress, whether it's chemical stress, physical stress, emotional stress. And then we add one more thing, and it becomes a problem. Mold, we kind of talked about that. Oh, it's break time, folks. Got to go to break. Hey, listen, I'm going to open up my phone lines. If you have a healthcare question, you can give us a call at 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DRJOE. My website is drjoeesposito.com, which is Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. We archive radio shows there. You can get my books, my supplements. Send me questions through the website. If we don't get you on the air today, you can send me questions through the website. And again, a number here at the studio if you have any questions on anything on health, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Hey, don't go anywhere. Tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Do appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. I am Dr. Joe Esposito. We're talking today about answering the question, is your home making you sick? Because so many times I've had people come in over the years and they're raw food vegetarians, they're vegans, and they can't understand. I'm eating right, I'm taking supplements, I don't understand why I'm sick all the time. And then we dig a little deeper. Because with our patients, we always check the nervous system. As a chiropractor, we always check to make sure there's no pinched nerves. Some feel pain, most don't. Then we check their diet and their digestive system. And then those few that kind of stump me, I got to dig a little deeper. And mold is a real big issue. Now, mold in your home, or any building really, creates an unhealthy environment because mold spores can become airborne and then you inhale them. Some molds are infectious in nature and can cause some real serious health issues. There are some molds that are called toxic molds, but the toxicity of the mold, we know a little bit about it. And we're finding more and more that mold can be a real serious issue. And in fact, I was the guest on another radio show. Yes, sometimes I'm the guest. And it's a doctor who works with women's health. And one of the things she specializes in is breast implants. Not putting them in, dealing with them once they're in. And the breast implants now, we're finding, have been around for a while, can actually get moldy. And boy, does that make a mess of your immune system. Because your immune system, you can imagine, is kind of like warriors or soldiers, okay? And you have so many soldiers in your immune system, they're attacking whatever they possibly can all the time. Then you add something that's an ongoing, chronic, essentially infection. The immune system gets exhausted. And then the immune system kind of loses its ability to specialize. And it starts attacking everything. And that can lead to autoimmune conditions. I mean, if you put a breast implant or any type of implant in your body, it's a foreign object. Your immune system says, I don't know what that is. I'm going to just keep attacking it because it may be dangerous to the host, you. And that's where the problems start to come in. The immune system starts to go nuts. And then if it gets moldy, you got a problem. I have a root canal. A root canal, if you have a root canal, is always a low-grade infection. Always. Dentists learn that in dental school. And so I wish I hadn't gotten it. I wish I'd gotten a bridge instead. But with that low-grade infection, my immune system is always attacking this issue. So I want you to take things out of your life that you have control over. This is in my body. It's probably more of a challenge to take it out than to leave it in. I have to address that. If you have implants, you can take them out or not. Oh, also, this was news to me too, that breast implants are supposed to be taken out and changed. Was it 5 to 8 years, I think they said. I never knew that. I thought once they were in forever. So I learned something new about that. But mold can be a big issue. And as a chiropractor, I try to get your immune system as strong as I can by adjusting the nerves that go to the immune organs, by getting your diet straightened out. But you may be exposing yourself to things, like we said, moldy house, that could be a real serious issue. There's something called Legionella bacteria. This lives in your shower head. Now, it can cause like a pneumonia-type symptoms. But if you're sick, it becomes a problem. If you're not sick, it's okay. So leaky roof, drippy pipes, crawl space. I looked at a house many years ago on a lake, and it was really nice. It was a really good price. And I went and I looked, and it was a split level, and I went downstairs, and I said, it smells kind of funky down here. And the real estate agent said, well, they didn't put air conditioning down here because it's kind of built into the side of a hill, and it doesn't get hot down here. but I can smell the funk. And I said, something's not right here. And they said, well, you just have to put an air conditioner in and blah, 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 and it's great. Look at this great price. And I said, I don't think I want to live in a house where there's a potential mold issue. Well, about a year later, I get a phone call saying, oh, the house is back on the market, and they remediated all the mold. Well, what they did is they went into the crawl space and laid down plastic, which was absolutely necessary. But if that mold is in the walls and there's a constant source of water, we've got a big serious issue. So if you're going to buy a house, it's not a bad idea, especially if you suspect mold, to have a mold inspection done. Because it could mean you're moving into something that could literally kill you. That's how dangerous it is. So I want you to think about these things. If your house smells moldy or is musty, there's something wrong. You need to get it fixed. Hey, folks, if you have a healthcare question, I'll open up the lines, 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DRJOE. My website, drjoeesposito.com. That's there 24 hours a day. I archive all my shows there. So a lot of times people will say, Dr. Joe, you talked about such and such on a certain day. Go to my website. The shows will be archived there. You could listen to it again, and you may hear something you want to send to your friends. Hey, go to Dr. Joe's site, and you can just cut and paste it. So, cleaners. This is a big issue. Spring cleaning. Everybody wants their house to be nice and clean and fresh. But be careful that you're not exposing yourself to a lot of toxins. The big concern, people have chemical sensitivities. Everyone has some type of chemical sensitivity. It depends how dramatic yours is. But you can't inhale toxins and not have an adverse reaction, ever. There's always going to be some type of adverse reaction. Some people, it's more than others, kind of like gluten. If you eat gluten, which is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, some people with something like celiac could kill them. Other people might cause a little sinus congestion, might kill a little brain fog, a little gas, bloating. So we do respond differently depending on how your immune system is wired. The problem, this happens with everything, is we can test a product and say, okay, it's safe. But they don't test it interacting with other problems. For example, vaccines. We can test one vaccine and say, yeah, this is safe. But when they mix it with the other 54 vaccines that the average teenager would have gotten if they'd followed the treatment plan, we don't know what's going to happen because there's no way to test at this point in science all the possible interactions. So that's why when you're cleaning your house, I want you to start thinking better choices. Like, for example, I don't have any carpet in my house at all carpet's out of my house. So for hardwoods, water and vinegar. I think you could look it up online. I think it's a quarter cup of white vinegar to a half a gallon of water. Spray it on, cleans your hardwoods. And that's great. You can use natural cleaners on your stone, like your granite. Window, same thing as floors. Vinegar and water works great. So the less chemicals you put in your body, the better off you're going to be. So multi-purpose cleaners got to be real careful because you spray on these disinfectants. I know here at the studio a couple of weeks ago, everybody was sick. It seemed like everybody was sick. I walked in, I was joking. I said, am I doing news, weather, and sports today? I don't know what's going on here. And they sprayed the whole studio down with chemicals, to kill germs. Well, that's great, but the chemicals themselves can become irritants. And you might think, gosh, I have a cold, I have the flu, when in reality, you're having a reaction to the sprays that were sprayed around to kill the viruses, germs, and bacteria. So again, the reason I'm doing this show today is I want you to start thinking, what have I exposed myself to? Could it be that? And many times the answer is yes. But multi-purpose cleaners, oftentimes used for windows and kitchens, have something called 2-butoxyethanol in it. And this is a toxic chemical that it gives that clean smell. It smells like cleaners we used. Side effects include breathing problems, low blood pressure, lowered hemoglobin. So you might be tired all the time if you're cleaning house because it's lowering your hemoglobin, your iron in your blood. And it can create a situation called chemical acidosis. Your body's supposed to be slightly alkaline. 6.5 to 7.0 is the perfect range to be. And sometimes when we become acid, that's a real dangerous place to be. Folks, got to go to a break. If you have a healthcare question, lines are ringing. 844-44-DR-JOE. My website, drjoeesposito.com. Or just Google Dr. Joe if you want to send me questions, read articles, listen to radio shows. I videotape my lectures. I do live lectures a lot. Come out to my live lectures. They're a lot of fun. I can show you things I can't show you on the radio. Folks, got to go to a break. Do me a favor. Tell your friends about the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hello, boys and girls. Glad you could be here. Having a good time today. Lots of callers calling in on the show. And we're talking today about answering the question, is your home making you sick? Because sometimes I'll have patients and they'll get chiropractic care, they'll get their spine working properly, they'll follow our treatment advice, we'll get them on a good diet, and then all of a sudden we still have issues that we just can't figure out, and sometimes it's a house issues. So cleaners, really bad. I hope you know you're never supposed to mix ammonia and bleach. If you don't know that, now you do. If you mix ammonia and bleach, you could die. So don't do that. Another thing that can cause some issues, I'm going to take callers in just a second. So, folks, if you're on hold, please keep holding. My phone number here at the studio, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Another thing that can cause problems is your vacuum cleaner. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. When you vacuum, you stir up a lot of dust, and if your vacuum isn't a good vacuum, it can blow the dust right back into the air, and the cleaners can spit the fine dust and bacteria into the air, and you inhale it. This causes allergic reactions in sensitive people. Common issues are mold, pollen, dander, hairs, pest particles, which can mean parts of animals or animal droppings. That can be a big issue. Personally, I have a robot vacuum. Those little ones you push a button and leave the room. Love that thing. Oh, man, this is like my third one, I think. I got it when it first came out, and I burned through them. Things are great. I love them. My house doesn't have any carpet. It's all wood and tile. But you turn it on, leave the room, come back, dump out the dust, you're done. So the vacuuming gets done while you're not even home, which I think is just great. It's one of those great inventions, one thing that's really made life a lot easier. All right, let's go to the callers. 844-44-Dr. Joe is the number. Doug, how can we make your day better?
Well, tell me, I about a year ago got one of these termite treatments around my house where they put the bait stations around the house, and there was a couple of places near the driveway, so they drilled and pressure poisoned the termites. Mm-hmm. And are those known to contribute to poor health?
I've never heard anything about the bait stations. When they spray it, though, like any other toxic chemical, if it gets into the house, it can be an issue, yes. Hopefully it's going to be sealed. But then the other option is, what do you do about termites? It's one of those, 6 of one, half dozen the other. But what I was going to get to, so you kind of made me jump ahead, Doug, is you got to keep your immune system strong. And if the immune system is strong and you're exposed to something like that, you're less likely to have a reaction. So the answer is I've never heard anything about the bait stations, no.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate the call. And let's keep taking calls. If you have a question, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Is it Leah?
It's Leah.
Hi, Leah. How can we make your day better?
Well, thank you so much for taking my call. I enjoy listening to your show, and I've learned a lot
great.
from all the things that you've been teaching. But I have two questions. One is about essential oils. I have a lot of friends that are really into essential oils, and I'm kind of on the fence about, are they beneficial or are they not? I know some people ingest them, and I'm not interested in that, but more just sort of, in the air, that people, just different ways that people use that sometimes on pressure points, different things.
Sure.
So what is your opinion on essential oils?
Pure essential oils work very well. They have to be the good kind, though, because there's a lot of knockoffs, so to speak, out on the market, and those don't work.
Okay.
And so if you're going to get a really good, high-quality essential oils are not cheap. A little bottle will cost you, $10, $15, $20 sometimes. But the answer is yes, they work very well. Sometimes I've heard people exaggerate a little bit as to what they might do. But all in all, pure essential oils are a good thing.
And how do you recommend using them? I mean, what are some of your suggestions for uses? I mean, I've heard people talk about like headaches, or if you can put, I think it's peppermint oil. I'm not really sure. I haven't really studied all of that, but I'm just kind of on the fence really about, do they really work? Or are they just a lot of hype? I'm sort of kind of riding the fence about that.
No, the good ones work. The good ones do work. I've used them. You can put them in a diffuser. You can put them like a little ring. You can put around a light bulb. I don't know if they work on a new light bulbs. The old light bulbs, you put a ring on it and it would heat it up and put it into the air. You can put it directly onto your body. Absolutely. So there's countless uses for them. Everything from aphrodisiacs to headaches to digestion stimulants. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And the second real quick question, paleo diet, what's your opinion on that diet? My husband does CrossFit and they different things. He's just read a lot of different things about the paleo diet, and I'm kind of curious what your opinion. Is that a good diet to be on or not, or what is your opinion on that?
The principle is a good idea. Don't eat things that are processed and chemicals. It should be pure food. So I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
The problem I have is I don't want to live like a caveman, because cavemen only live to about 20 or 30 years old. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't eat meat. I've been a vegan for over 30 years. I'm not asking you to do that. So if you're going to eat meat, I recommend you do organic meat. I would never recommend eating commercial meats for the steroids and hormones and chemicals and pesticides. Commercial meat. So the concept of paleo just means non-processed. So I'm okay with that. But there's a lot of other directions need to go in with that. So, the concept I'm okay with.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Lee. I appreciate the call. And, folks, if you have a question, 844-44-Dr. Joe. We're talking today about, is your house making you sick? And then, of course, we're weaving into callers because you guys really kind of steer the show, which is why I love when you guys call it 844-44-Dr. Joe. That number, by the way, rings through to my office if I'm not on the air. So people have sent me messages. You could like me on Facebook, too, by the way, Facebook/Dr. Joe Esposito. Like my page. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. And people say, well, how can I call you? Why don't you give out your phone number? Well, that is my phone number, 844-44-Dr. Joe. So I just kind of forward it to the studio when I'm here and then send it back to the office when I'm not here. But the website's a great source of information because you can look up specific topics, look up the articles that I have, scan through it. You scan through the topics I've done on lectures because not everybody is affected by every show that I do. And I can't cover everybody's needs all the time, but that's why I archive the shows. And the cost for hundreds of hours of radio shows, tons of videos, articles, the cost for all that is free. I do that because this is healthcare that really, really works, and it's not fair for me to keep that to myself. 844-44-Dr. Joe is the number here. My website, again, drjoeesposito.com. Folks, got to go to a break. Do me a favor. Tell your friends about the show. Like me on Facebook. We're going to be back in just a second. Hey, thanks for listening. Glad you could make it. So happy to spend a little time with you. It's kind of special. Me and my friends all over the world. What a great job we have here. Hey, we're talking today, answering the question, is your house making you sick? And another thing I want to get to before I get back to the callers is if you have a juicer or a blender, I want you to be careful with that because if you don't take it apart, and I strongly recommend you put things in the dishwasher for heat to kill things, you can develop mold or fungus that can grow underneath the washers. And it's a very high risk because it's moist and it's warm, and if you don't wash it and dry it properly, it's a perfect place. What are you doing? You're putting it directly into your food. And in fact, you've heard me talk about Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source, the two supplements I believe everyone in the world should be taking. Certain exceptions, but it's at least the minimum amount of nutrients that you should be putting in your body. I tell people all the time, if you're not willing to do anything else, at least give yourself a high-quality supplement. And it's just like exercise. Once you do a little bit, or cleaning house, you do a little bit, then you want to do a little bit more. And that's what Super Greens and Essential Source is. It's kind of like a gateway supplement. I think I coined a phrase just then. A gateway supplement to get you into a healthier lifestyle. And it's a powder. I take a scoop of each. I have it sitting here in front of me at the studio. If I have a big day in front of me, I'll take it twice a day. But minimum for what you're getting is amazing. But we take fruits and vegetables, juice it, take the water out at a very low temperature. What's left is a powder with all the enzymes still active. Then we add prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes. The reason I say that is when people use a juicer, it takes a lot of work. And when we take the water out, we take the sugar out too. And so fruits are loaded with sugar, and that's not a good thing. I'm going to cover that in a couple of questions from callers. But that's why the Super Greens, the Essential Source, are just, I consider it the most amazing thing in the world when it comes to supplements. And they're all available on my website, drjoeesposito.com. But I think everybody should be taking those because at least get some nutrients in your body. Sandy, how's life in North Carolina today?
It's good.
Good. How can we make your life better?
Well, I was calling because I had a concern about my hands and my legs and my feet. They've been falling asleep faster than normal. And so I was wondering what could be going on.
Well, a couple of things. If it's just one area, like one arm or just the hands or just the feet, it's usually a pinched nerve in the spine. And when you pinch the nerve, you pinch the blood vessels, and they go to the hands and the feet, the extremities. But if it's both upper and lower, it might be a circulatory issue, which is why I left my fruit part and my sugar part for you. When we eat sugar, glucose, like table sugar, for example, is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. The glucose goes into the cells and is utilized as fuel. The fructose has to be converted into glucose. And in the process, we create something called uric acid in the liver.
Okay.
Uric acid gets you to your joints and it hurts. I'm a chiropractor. I deal with pain management all day, every day. But uric acid prevents your body from producing nitric oxide. So you can get uric acid from meat, or you can get it from too much sugar, fructose. And nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels. So if you're not opening up your blood vessels, that can be affecting your circulation.
Okay.
So 2 things I would suggest right away, Sandy, is number 1, cut out all your sugars, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, fruit, maybe 1 or 2 pieces a day maximum. And let's see if we can start producing more nitric oxide. Second thing is cut out the meat, because that can create uric acid and waste products as well. And then the third thing, you could try this. It'll work pretty quickly if it's going to work, is get some beet powder, B-E-E-T, like red beets.
Right.
You can eat them, or I just get the powder. And take about a half a teaspoon. I take it with my Super Greens and Essential Source. And that converts into nitric oxide. As nitrates, that convert into nitric oxide, which helps tremendously with circulation.
Okay.
So try the celery, by the way, is high in nitrates as well, which are good for you, not the bad ones, and they convert into nitric oxide as well. So celery and beets are probably your 2 best bets. Let's see if that helps.
Okay.
All right, Sandy, thanks so much for the call. Do appreciate it.
Okay.
See, folks, it's not always what you put in your body. Sometimes it's what you need to not put in your body. So in Sandy's case, I'd recommend giving up the sugars and the meats and then adding something that may convert into nitric oxide. Exercise, by the way, is also good for nitric oxide as well. Gregory, how can we make your day better?
Yes, I want to know what your thoughts on vaping.
Horrible.
Horrible.
It came out, it's like a lot of things. Like agave nectar came out a while ago saying, oh, it doesn't spike your blood sugar, so it's good for you. Then the research came out on it, and turns out agave nectar is worse than high fructose corn syrup. Vaping came out as it's better than cigarettes, let's do this. It turns out, though, that it's not. It's actually as bad or worse for different reasons. So do you vape because you like the flavor, or I'm just curious. Maybe I can kind of guide you to how to get off it.
Well, I started because my nephew was working at a vape shop, and I like the different technology, but
sure,
I got on it and was wondering about it because my wife is not happy that I started a new hobby. So,
well, as much as I don't want to agree with your wife, I agree with her. Yeah, you really got to cut that out, because even though it doesn't have a smell, there's a lot of toxic chemicals in the vape smoke. And then they add the flavors. Well, those flavors are not natural flavors. They're chemicals, and that adds another component that you're blowing this stuff into your lungs. So, yeah, I'd strongly advise you cut that out, too.
All right. Would that, bring your sugar up or something, or?
It shouldn't bring your sugar up, but it's a lot of free radicals. And free radicals, when you get into the body, attack your body. Like for cigarettes, we used to think it was 100 billion free radicals for every puff of cigarettes. So that's 100 billion molecules attacking your body for every puff. Well, it turns out the research got a little more technical. It's 100 trillion free radicals per puff. And that's what's happening with vaping. We're finding that it sounded like a good idea, but now we're digging up more and more research on it. Long-term studies are being done. And I can promise you the studies are only going to get worse and worse as time goes on. So if you can give it up, I'd recommend you do.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gregory. I appreciate it. If you have a healthcare question, 844-44-Dr. Joe, DRJOE. Let's see. I guess sneak another call in before the break. John, how can we make your day better?
Hey, Dr. Joe. How are you today?
I'm very well. You got a minute and a half. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I got this big belly on top of me. How can I get rid of all that fat?
Okay. Number one, you got to cut out all your carbohydrate, your processed carbohydrates, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, and pastas. And the second thing is we have to use that. It's fuel. It's a reserve tank. So the way we use our fuel is we stop putting fuel in the body so that the body goes to the reserve tank. And a little trick that I do is something called intermittent fasting. It's in my new book called Prescription for Extreme Health. But I want you to skip dinner 2 nights a week or 3. Now, what I do is I don't plan it. It's kind of like if I'm done with work, I have nothing planned for the evening, I'll just skip dinner. Because your body you eat something, it takes about 8 hours to utilize that fuel. Then another 8 hours, another 8 hours. Once you skip dinner, after 8 hours passes from your last meal, you'll start burning off that fat. I usually lose about a half a pound each time I do it. Okay? Got to go to break, John. So, folks, if you have a healthcare question, 844-44-Dr. Joe, my website, drjoeesposito.com. You can order Super Greens there, make appointments, send me questions, listen to archive radio shows. That's there 24 hours a day. But the number here, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Hey, tell your friends about the show. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody. I'm happy that you're here. Hope you're learning lots when you listen to the show. That's my goal, is to teach you things so that you can naturally get well and stay well. I want to empower you. I want you to take control of your own health. We're in a very weird time when it comes to healthcare. I've been in practice for over 3 decades now, And it's so tumultuous. Doctors don't want to treat patients because they're not going to get paid. They spend so much money and time on insurance companies. The insurance companies make the doctors fill out ridiculous amounts of paperwork that has nothing to do with the patient's health care. And it's almost like jump through this hoop, and we caught you. You didn't fill out this hoop the right way, so we're not going to pay the bill. And then you and the doctor have problems. And so why don't we just solve this problem by you getting well? If you take care of yourself, you're less likely to have to worry about going to the doctor, and that's one of my goals. So we're talking today about is your house making you sick? And something I want you to consider, something people never do, is I want you to clean your refrigerator. Not the inside, the outside. Because if you have a frost-free refrigerator, the freezer defrosts itself, water drips down into a pan, usually at the base of your refrigerator, and then a fan blows over it and evaporates the water. Well, if you have dust and mold growing down there, every time the fan comes on, it's blowing it out into the house. So when you're cleaning, make sure you take that little grate off your refrigerator and vacuum, get a little hand vacuum or an extension on your nozzle and get in there and dust up all that dust and toxins that are built up under there, especially if you have pets. Because pet dander can build up in there, and you can burn out your motor too, which can be a real expensive situation. And also check around the gaskets around your freezer or your refrigerator, because if you start to see mold growing in there, you got to get in there, you got to clean it. Because mold likes moisture, and it'll just keep multiplying, and we don't want that. We want to get you healthy, not sick. And your refrigerator should only have good stuff in it, certainly not mold. Let's go back to the callers. Donna, how quick? Oh, you there? Donna, hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Donna. How can we make your day better?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
So I'm the mother of 7 beautiful children, and they're all grown. But along with them growing up, I've grown out. So I have this belly fat that I can't seem to get rid of. When I was younger, it didn't bother me so much. I wore a girdle, or I kept toned. I've always worked out. But now that I'm older, this belly just doesn't go anywhere, and I've lost my waistline. If you know where it is, please send it back to me. I'd like to have my waistline back. I eat, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I eat about an 8 in terms of healthy. Lots of vegetables, lots of fiber, folic acid, vitamin C, vitamin D. I do all of that. I just can't get rid of this belly. Okay. And I'm using a cleanse that is ginger, cayenne, garlic, and distilled water. But it just makes me go to the bathroom. It doesn't really get rid of this belly.
Well, what's happening is the belly fat's outside your colon. Okay, so you can cleanse the colon all day, but the belly fat, it's called the greater omentum. That's the fancy word, where we store fat in our abdomen. And so we have to, as I was saying to a caller earlier, we have to go into the reserve tank of fuel. So when you eat, 8 hours, generally speaking, 8 hours later, your body's used up that fuel. Then you give it more fuel, and it burns for 8 hours. And most of us eat every 8 hours. And 8 times 3 is 24, so we never get a chance to, 24 hours in a day, we never get a chance to go into our reserve tank. So what we have to do is every now and then dip into our reserve tank to use up some of that fuel. And we do that by skipping a meal. And the best meal to skip is dinner. Because when you're sleeping, you don't need a lot of energy. If you skip breakfast, you need the energy to run. So what I do, as I was saying earlier, is I'll just pick a couple of nights a week when I don't have anything planned, and I don't usually plan it. It just kind of happens organically, and I'll go, okay, well, you know what? I don't have any plans tonight, and I'm just going to skip dinner. Now, it's a little challenging the first couple of times because we're so ingrained and indoctrinated, and you have to eat dinner. So it's a little uncomfortable. Not bad. I mean, it's not like you're going to lose your mind. It's just that I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. So I try to plan things away from food. If I have to go shopping, maybe go shopping to a big store or something that doesn't carry food, or go for a walk, which is great. Certainly in the spring and summer, it's a great time to go for a walk. And what you'll find is after about the 3rd or 4th day, you start to really enjoy skipping a meal. You start getting this feeling of euphoria. And when you start doing that, and you start doing this on a regular basis, you'll find I lose about a half a pound, because I was like you, I had a belly and I couldn't get rid of it. I start losing about a half a pound every time I do it. And as we get older, that's a pretty good rate to lose fat at. And this way you're dipping into the reserve tank. Sound like a plan?
Sometimes my hardest problem is eating late at night because I have a job as a flight attendant, and
Sure.
sometimes we don't get to eat early.
Right.
So, I end up skipping lunch, and then by the time I get to my hotel or whatever late at night, I'm starving.
Well, that might not be the good
So-
night to do it. Do it on nights that are better for you. And if you can skip it, if you
Okay.
just want to go to bed, just go to bed. If you skip it, you're going to find how good you feel. It's really a weird feeling, this euphoria that you get. And you'll be amazed how quickly it starts to work. You got to kind of restart it.
I'm used to fasting, so I understand the euphoria. So I'll try that. Thank
Great,
you
Donna.
so much.
Thanks so much for the
your
call.
help.
I appreciate it. And folks, if you have a healthcare question, 84444 Dr. Joe. We're talking today and answering the question, is your house making you sick? If you're on hold, folks, I'm going to get to you, I promise, okay? We got some good callers coming in, so please keep hanging on. But I hear the music, which means I have to go to break. Yes. Folks, if you have a healthcare question, 84444 Dr. Joe. My website, if you want to make appointments, if you're in the listening area, if you're outside the listening area, we can always do phone consultations, order books, supplements, the Super Greens, the Essential Source. Oh, by the way, Super Greens and Essential Source also available on Amazon. So if you have an Amazon account, you can order my products there too. drjoeesposito.com. Hey, don't go anywhere. Tell your friends about the show. We're going to be right back. Hey, thanks for telling your friends about the show, too. It's always fun when I'm on the air. I watch my Facebook page and how many people like the page. So like me on Facebook. We send out a lot of good information there. Go to my website. You can sign up for my newsletter. Just send me your email address or send me a question. I always put you on a newsletter list. And we send out good information there, too. Never give out your email address or anything. I just want to get you all this information that you need to get well and stay well. And we're talking about, is your house making you sick? And I said I don't have any carpets in my house. I have hardwoods. And if you're going to put hardwoods in, I recommend that you get them pre-finished and then install them. Because if you put them down and then have to stain them, that's a really high level of toxic smell that's going to be in your house for days and days and days. So if you're going to do that, I recommend that you get it done and get out of town for about a week or so. Because that's a real bad toxic smell. That's why I don't like the idea of buying a new house. Because a new house has a lot of toxins being outgassed from the carpets. Hopefully you don't have carpets. The hardwoods, paint, any of those things can be toxic problems with your body. And once it can set up something, and even if it clears up the toxic chemicals, it kind of weakens your immune system and allows other things to get in. Let's go back to the callers. Tim, how can we make your day better? Tim?
Joe?
Yes, sir. Yeah, can you turn down your radio?
Yes, sir. Listen, I was in a car wreck 34 years ago.
Okay.
I had a closed head injury. I was in a coma for 6 months. No, 6 weeks.
Right.
And couldn't walk at all for 6 months.
Wow.
And I have got, my walking is extremely better now, but I have an equilibrium problem.
Yep.
And I was just wondering if there's something that I might could eat or do that would improve my equilibrium.
Yeah, we see a lot of equilibrium problems. Do you have your radio on, Tim? Could you turn it down?
No, I don't have it on.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm hearing feedback here. Okay, so what happens with equilibrium, there's two things we have to address. The back of the brain, what's called the cerebellum, or the inner ear. Those are the two most common issues. And in a car accident, when your head snaps forward and backwards, your skull kind of floats inside the skull. It can your brain, floats inside the skull, can slam into the front or the back or the side of the brain, of the skull, causing what's called a contre-coup injury. Contre-coup in French means back and forth. So your head goes backwards, your brain slams into the front of the skull, and vice versa. If you damage the cerebellum in that type of injury, that could be causing a lot of equilibrium problems. So what we need to do is, and we do this a lot in my offices, we check to see which side the damage is on, the left or the right, and then we stimulate that part of the cerebellum. We kind of jumpstart the weak side of the cerebellum. And in many cases, patients almost instantly start to see some relief, and then it may take several visits to get it to stabilize. But in most cases, cerebellum or inner ear. If it's inner ear, then we have to do some other stuff. But that's what I find works really well for equilibrium problems.
Okay, nothing pertaining to my diet would help my equilibrium?
Well, if you do an artificial sweetener, I'd strongly advise you get rid of that. Okay, artificial sweetener is not something that's good for you in any way, shape, or form, but that can be causing problems. Alcohol, of course, can lead to equilibrium problems. But to increase circulation, things like Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, beet powder, celery, that can help circulation, and see if that helps as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Listen, thank you very much. You've been very helpful.
Well, thanks, Tim. I appreciate listening. All right. Clarence, how can we make your day better?
Dr. Joe, how you doing?
I'm very happy you called.
I would like to know if you have some sort of like the Super Greens that boost your immune system.
Oh, absolutely, yes. In fact, we had a product, and I just ran out of it actually because we couldn't get the quality ingredients. The supplier couldn't get the quality ingredients. But yeah, we use a company called Standard Process, and that's the one I use as a backup. And they have several things like Immuneplex or Echinacea, which helps build the immune system. So absolutely, positively, yes, we have several of them. So if you go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just dial 844-44-DR-JOE during business hours, ask for Kayla and ask her to put together an immune protocol for you, and she can get you all that information for you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Great, Clarence. I appreciate it. All right. Helen, good question. How are we doing today, Helen?
I'm doing good. I'm having a glass of wine,
Uh-huh.
and I read that it has sulfate. Most times I buy organic wine,
Uh-huh.
so I'm wondering, how is that really bad, or it depends upon how much you drink?
It is bad because some of this, there's different types of sulfates and sulfites, and so some of them are bad, some of them are good. Unfortunately, with the wine, if it's an organic wine, there's going to be some naturally occurring. And that little bit, probably not the end of the world, but when we start looking at commercial wines, when it's added to it, the sulfites are added, that's when you start having some real serious issue and can actually lead to cancer. So I'm not a big fan of alcohol. It's one of my 7 deadly sins: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. If you're going to drink wine, I'd recommend organic only, but I recommend you don't drink it. Okay, I'm willing to negotiate. I'm not a radical, crazy vegetarian here. I'm trying to negotiate with you, but it's better you don't drink it because the benefits. Go ahead. One glass.
Okay. One quick question again.
Okay.
Another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your Super Green, is that the Standard Process also?
No, the Super Green's the essential source. I've created those myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just have to get it through you.
Yeah, unfortunately, got to get those through me. Yeah, I use Standard Process for supplements that I don't have. I use them as my backup plan. There's other companies I use too, but I just know I like Standard Process. So.
Okay, one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm like 72 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I seem to be in great shape, but I don't take a multivitamin, but I do a lot of greens and fruits and stuff like that. Should I take a multivitamin daily?
Yes, I would take Essential Source. That's my multivitamin. And the thing is this, Helen, when you were a kid, you know this, the food was totally different. Remember, milk had cream on the top, and tomatoes had flavor, and watermelons were juicy, and peaches were sweet. Yeah. And so it's a totally different world than it is today. And even the organic ones, the soils have been so depleted. So at least with organic foods, you have a running chance of getting, it depends on the study you read, up to 70% more nutrients in organic versus non-organic food. But I still take my Super Greens and Essential Source every day, and the Essential Source has a multivitamin incorporated into it.
Okay. Well, you got a great show. You've been a lot of help to me.
Well, thanks, Helen. Tell your friends about it. Great. Thanks so much for listening.
Will.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And, folks, the Super Greens, the Essential Source, my books, they're also available on Amazon. If you have an Amazon account, I started mentioning that a couple of weeks ago. Mary, my right-hand man there at the studio, at my office, said, holy cow, you said Amazon, and people like buying on Amazon like crazy. So we have it on Amazon or on my website or at the offices. You could save some shipping costs if you come to the offices, but depends where you are, of course. So we're talking about, is your house making you sick? And we're also answering questions. So if you have a question, you can give us a call at 844-44-DR-JOE. Of course, that number rings through to my office when I'm not here on the air. We talked about wood floors. If you're going to clean your wood floors, we talked a little bit earlier about just water and vinegar is really going to be the best thing for it because you don't want to put any toxic chemicals on there. And if you put polishes, it can make them slippery. And then you slip and fall. And as your chiropractor, I don't want you to have more spinal injuries. The less spinal injuries you have, the easier it is for my team of doctors to fix you. So I don't want you sliding across your hardwood floors and breaking something or dislocating something even worse. Hey, got to go to a break. If you have a question, 844-44-DR-JOE. My website, again, we archive radio shows, videos. Hey, check out my live lectures. We videotape them. First of all, it's fun because we can show you things we can't show you on the radio. But if you can come to the live lectures, that's even cooler too because they really are. It's an experience to come to the live lectures. And that's all on the website. To order supplements, book appointments, 844-44-DR-JOE is the number. Hey, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Folks, don't. Hello, everyone. Glad you could be here. So happy you could spend a little time with you. I am Dr. Joe Esposito. We're talking today about, is your house making you sick? And there's a couple of hidden places that you might not be thinking about that could be making you sick. And one of them is your bath mat. I mean, think about this. Your bath mat is a perfect place to grow mold. It lays on the floor, gets moist every time you take a shower or bath, and then the moisture builds up. It gets trapped down there, and you get moldy. So one thing I want you to consider doing is I want you to launder it about once a week at a very high temperature, because I want high temperature to kill any viruses, germs, and bacteria. Also, talking about high temperature, I want you to wash your underwear in hot water. Now, bras, not so much, but ladies and gentlemen, your undergarments are exposed to a lot of bacteria and germs and viruses and everything else. And when you wash it in cold water, it doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to kill off some of these pathogens. And so wash your undies in hot water all the time. I know it may shorten the life expectancy of your undies, but I don't want you reinfecting yourself. Many times people can reinfect themselves, and if you have parasites in your colon, well, they could be coming out of your body, and if there are eggs that are in your undies, the eggs can then get redeposited. So you really want to wash your undies in hot water. And if you're going to use a bleach, I want you to use a non-chlorine bleach. They make those, by the way, but chlorine is a highly toxic poison, and when it gets into the body, it can weaken the immune system, but chlorine can also block up your thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland uses iodine to produce your thyroid hormones. And if you're exposing yourself to a lot of chlorine, fluorine, or bromine is used as a dough conditioner in a lot of commercial bread. If you're blocking up your iodine receptor sites with chlorine, fluorine, and bromine, you can't absorb iodine properly, and that could actually affect your thyroid. I was going to do a show on thyroid actually this week, and I decided to do this instead. But that's one of the things I want you to be careful with. So chlorine bleach, get it out of your life. We have water filters on my website that you can, under-sink water filters that we have available to our listeners. And I have a whole house water filter to filter out all the chlorine from all my water, but those are expensive. I understand that. So at least get one under your sink, but don't use chlorine bleach. Wash your mats. Let's go back to the callers, and then we'll go back to the notes here. Jeff, how can we make your day better?
Yes, how you doing? I appreciate you taking my call, Dr. Joe. But
you're welcome.
I tuned in, and thank you, sir. I tuned in. I'm a truck driver from Augusta, Georgia, and I heard you mention the artificial sweetener. And just as I tuned in, and I hate to stray off subject, but is that the ones like, because I do drink coffee.
Yes.
Kind of regular throughout the day.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking I was doing the right thing by staying away from sugar, but is that
Yes, of the 7 deadly sins, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener, the worst of all of them is the artificial sweetener. So I know, and everyone thinks that, well, it's no sugar, I guess it must be good for me. But aspartame, the blue packets, aspartame breaks down to 3 components: aspartic acid, phenylalanine, and methyl esters. Don't worry about the chemistry. But aspartic acid is an excitotoxin. It causes the brain to fire faster than it's supposed to. And some of the number one side effect of aspartame is headaches, aspartame ingestion, because the brain is firing faster than it's supposed to. So as a chiropractor, I want to get you into less pain, not more pain. And one of the things people do is they use artificial sweeteners. It also breaks down to methanol. Methanol is wood alcohol, and wood alcohol has a tendency to attack the optic nerve, your vision. So we have a lot of patients, as their vision is getting worse, they just think they're getting older. We got to get them off the artificial sweetener. Sucralose, on the other hand, a yellow packet, is bad for different reasons. Sucralose is a chlorinated hydrocarbon. And when you do that, when you chlorinate a hydrocarbon, you go through a 5-step process. You add hydrogen to it, to sugar, and it stimulates your estrogen receptor sites, causing the body to act like it has extra estrogen in it. And estrogen causes you to lay down fat. Another problem with sucralose is if you use it on a regular basis, you start to kill off the bacteria in your colon. It's like taking an antibiotic almost. And 70% of your immune system is in your colon. So by using it, you're killing off the good bacteria in your colon. So if you're going to use a sweetener, I'd recommend you use something like stevia. Stevia is a perfectly safe sweetener, and that will be a much better choice.
Okay. I definitely appreciate that. Yes, sir. I didn't mean to take you off topic.
No. This show never stays on topic. Don't worry about that.
I appreciate it because truck drivers is so hard to stay, in a healthy, keep healthy habits out here. And I try real hard, and I heard that about the artificial sweetener. So,
Sure.
But I definitely appreciate. You said, now, is that stevia with the S?
Yes, stevia, Stevia. Now, Jeff, I used to be a truck driver. I drove a straight job up in New York City on day trips, and boy, that was a nightmare. Let me tell you about traffic. But if you go to my website, on the bottom right-hand corner, I have I'll put in your email address. I'll send you a link to a lecture I did, and the name of the lecture is "So What Can I Eat?" And there we talk about what you can eat, even if you're traveling. We cover that all in there, and it's no charge for that. Just put in your email address. I'll send it to you. Okay?
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. All right, folks, if you have a question, 844-44 Dr. Joe, DRJOE. And that number, by the way, rings through to my office when I'm not here on the air. And yes, I used to be a truck driver. That is not a lie. That is the God's honest truth, yes. I used to deliver stereos into New York City. This is way back when. And boy, was it scary back then. And had a white truck, and I was always afraid. It was just plain white. It didn't say anything on it. But I'm driving through the really bad parts of New York City, and I'm thinking, if anyone knew what I had in this truck. So I didn't get mugged. I was lucky. Folks, got to go to a break. My website, 24 hours a day, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, #1 Dr. Joe in the world. You can make appointments there. You can order Super Greens, Essential Source. My products are also available on Amazon. If you have an Amazon account, make it easy for you. Try it. Try at least for a month. I think you'll be blown away with the results. And we have a lot of archive radio shows, a lot of good information on the website, drjoeesposito.com. Hey, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. Do appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with me. We're talking today, answering questions, is your house making you sick? It has several things you need to do to make sure that even though you have a good diet and you're getting chiropractic care, that you make sure your house isn't making you sick. And something I did a show on a while ago, I want to get to this before we're out of time, is your Wi-Fi. If you have Wi-Fi, I recommend you unplug it or disconnect it or log out of it when you go to bed at night. Because electromagnetic frequencies can be a big issue when it comes to health. In fact, if you ever read the directions on your cell phone, it clearly says, do not put this next to your head. Read the directions. It's in there. You got to hold it a little bit away from your head because electromagnetic frequencies, when it gets into the brain, can heat up the brain. And we're seeing an increase in tumors on the side of the brain where people use the phone, usually on the right side. And sometimes they're cancerous, sometimes they're not. But even if they're not, the surgery itself can be an issue. So at home, I do recommend you disconnect your Wi-Fi when you're sleeping. You don't need it on at that point. Okay, I'm negotiating with you. I always negotiate with all my patients. I know you're not going to change your diet 100%. At least do this. You're not going to, eat all the food you're supposed to. At least take Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. So I'll negotiate with you on a lot of things, and the Wi-Fi I'll negotiate with you on too. Let's go back to the callers. Jill, how can we make your day better?
Hi, Dr. Joe. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I have a 15-year-old teenager, and I know he's growing, and he's always sleepy, and seems like it's hard for him to get up early in the morning. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that he needs to be taking, like supplements or any vitamins that he should be on.
Well, if he's a boy, chances are he doesn't need iron, but you could always get his blood work done. That's always a good idea. And in our office, we would probably want to test his adrenal glands. Because today's teenagers, God, I sound like an old man. Today's teenagers, they're not like when we were kids. They're under so much more stress. Chemical stress, physical stress, emotional stress, stress to perform at work and at school, So many times the adrenal glands can burn out. And if your adrenal glands aren't pumping out enough adrenaline, that becomes an issue. And some things you can check for, Jill. If he has bags under his eyes, that's a sign of adrenal fatigue. If he stands up and gets dizzy, that's a sign of adrenal fatigue. So I would check his adrenals, get some blood work done at his primary doctor and see what's going on. But a certain easy, quick, cheap starting point would be Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. Because give him that at least once a day, maybe twice a day if he's an athlete. And let's see if that at least gives him the nutrients to get his body running again.
So it's Dr. Green, Super Green, and
Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. They're on my website. You can get them on Amazon. But I find when you give kids that stuff, they skyrocket in school. It's just like amazing how smart they get all of a sudden because they're just paying attention. They're not any smarter. They're just not falling asleep like everybody else is.
Right. So and dosage-wise, it's just like it's the same for adults.
Same for adults. If he's 15, I would give him the adult dosage, yeah. And make sure you drink enough water. Another thing that happens with teenagers and everyone is they dehydrate. And if they dehydrate, they just can't function. So you got to get them on some good water. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks so much, Jill. Appreciate the
that's so
call.
helpful. Thank you.
Totally understand that. We've all been teenagers, and this generation is different. This is probably the most different generation of teenagers there's ever been. And so we've got to take care of them because this generation is the first generation ever to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents by 5 years. Not 2 years, 5 years. So if you have a teenager right now, they're expected to live 5 years less than you. Even with modern technology and the amazing things we've come across in medicine and chiropractic and nutrition and all that, but they're not doing it. And so you don't have to have your child become a statistic, and you don't have to become a statistic. Do the right things. Eat the right diet. If you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, get it fixed. It's real simple stuff. And take the Super Greens, take the Essential Source. Now, with most of my patients, when I do a nutritional workup, I find they need more than just Super Greens and Essential Source, and I'll recommend that as well. But start there at least. We're talking about, is your house making you sick today? Your bed sheets. When was the last time you washed your bed sheets? I'm hoping about every 2 weeks or so. But think about this. You're sweating. You're laying there. Your naked skin is on them, or even if you have clothes on, your face, all getting into the sheets. And then you do it again the next day and the next day. So here's a couple of rules. Number one, at least wash your pillowcases once a week. Absolute minimum in hot water, okay? Because we want to make sure the hot water kills off the viruses, germs, and bacteria. One of my doctors, she said she changes her pillowcases every night. Little extreme, maybe, but certainly okay. It's not a bad thing to do. And then wash your pillows about once every month or two. Because even though you wash the pillowcase, your sweat, your spit gets into there, gets into the pillow, and that can be a breeding place for viruses, germs, and bacteria. And make sure you use what kind of water? Hot water. Exactly right. And natural clothes soap as well. Let's go back to the callers. Leon, how can we make your day better? You there, Leon?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I want to know a good smoothie recipe to mix with your Super Greens.
Well, actually, the smoothies, got to be careful with smoothies because if you buy them commercially, they're loaded with sugar. So what I do to make my smoothie is I take Dr. Joe's Super Greens, a scoop of each, Super Greens and Essential Source, and then I'll use coconut milk or almond milk. And if you're just starting out, you probably want to use the regular kind, not the unsweetened kind. Once you get used to...
I just started drinking almond milk.
Good boy. And you like it?
Yeah, I like it better than what I thought I would.
That's what everyone says. So I didn't set you up for that one, but I'm glad you answered it right. So, and I just go ahead.
Do what?
No, I just take a jar and I shake it up with the Super Greens, the Essential Source, because it doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it that keep it separated. So I like a jar to shake it up. It helps mix it in better. And then if you want to get really crazy, get a frozen banana or some frozen fruit. Throw it in a food processor or a blender with the almond milk or the coconut milk, Super Greens, Essential Source. Whip it up. You won't get a much better smoothie than that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a big thing, folks. If you go to like the malls or something like that and get a smoothie, I remember the first time I had them, they were so good, and I think, why are these things so good? And then I looked up the ingredients. It was like almost all sugar. It was like sugar, 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 and they waved a strawberry over it or something. So be careful with that. That's why the Super Greens, the Essential Source, gives you all the benefits of fruits and vegetables, but we take the sugar out. So you're getting all the benefits, none of the downside, which is kind of cool. So we're talking today about, is your house making you sick? And your mattresses, this is kind of a funny thing, that they make mattresses with built-in obsolescence. What that means is they're supposed to wear out in about 7 or 8 years. And they can double in weight because of the critters that live in your mattress. You have them on your body. They get into the mattress, and they live on your dead skin and your sweat and blood or whatever else is in there. And they eat that, and then they make more babies and more babies. And so you can actually double the weight of your mattress in about 7 years. So the type of mattress I have, as a chiropractor, people ask me this all the time, I have one of those air mattresses. I won't give the brand name because my boss wants people to buy advertising, so I'm not going to give them free advertising. But if you know somebody who works there, I maybe do an endorsement for them. And I love it. It's an air mattress. You can change the chambers. There's 2 chambers. I have a king-size bed. So if you have somebody sleeping next to you, you can make the one chamber softer or harder, and when you move, the motion doesn't go over to the other person. I like this for several reasons. Number one, it's lightweight. I said we've come up with lightweight televisions, lightweight mattresses. Now we've got to come up with lightweight couches and lightweight refrigerators. That's our next step in technology. But I like it because as a chiropractor, I can change the pressure depending on what my needs are. If I have a bad back, I might make it softer, might make it harder. If I worked out, if I'm sore. But the other thing is you don't have as much place for the critters to live. You have a covering around your plastic, but the plastic itself they can't live in, which is kind of neat. Folks, if you're just tuning in, unfortunately you missed an amazing show, but the good news is it'll be on my website. You can order Super Greens and Essential Source there, make appointments, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. And 844-44 Dr. Joe rings through to my office when I'm not on the air. Hey, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. Like me on Facebook. Talk to you next time.